They say if you suspect your wife of cheating, it means she already has. It's true, and I've seen it firsthand. My wife cheated on me under the guise of trips to her sister's house. But the interesting thing? My sister was the one covering for her while I was putting the pieces together. When I finally caught my wife with some guy from her office, I thought that was the end of it. But it wasn't. Their boss was involved too. It was a mess of lies and betrayal I had to untangle. And I did, 100%. Everyone involved in that affair got burned. Everything was locked down. Photos, audio, video recordings, all the tools a good detective needs. By the time I was done, they'd all lost something: career, marriage, money. And her? She lost me. But this isn't a story about heartbreak. It's about what happens when a man decides to stop playing nice. I was in control. I pulled every string. And when the story was over, I didn't just win. I took everything. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's go back to the Friday that started it all. You know how sometimes a small thing starts to itch at the back of your mind, and no matter how many times you try to brush it off, it just keeps coming back, stronger every time? That's how it started with my wife, Laura. We'd been married 11 years. Nothing flashy. Just a solid, working man's marriage. I'm a contractor, poured concrete for a decade, then shifted into managing sites once my knees started barking. I get up early, work long, come home dirty and tired. Laura worked at an office downtown, some admin job at a marketing firm. She was the polished one. Made coffee in the morning with those little vanilla syrups. Always had her nails done, hair neat, smelled like coconut and soap. And then one Friday, out of nowhere, she packed a weekend bag and said she was staying at her sister Melanie's place. Now, I ain't the jealous type. I don't go flipping out if my wife puts on makeup or spends time with her family. But it was just odd. Laura and Melanie weren't even that close. I'd known them both for years. They'd talk on the phone now and then, sure, but sleepovers? We weren't 16. What's the occasion? I asked her. She was zipping up a tote bag full of skin creams and yoga pants. Just need a little sister time, she said, not looking at me. We're doing a movie night. Wine, junk food, you know. I nodded, even smiled a little. Didn't know y'all were so tight again. She laughed, but it didn't sound right. We're reconnecting. It's good for us. Then she kissed me on the cheek and left. I watched her back out of the driveway in her little silver SUV, radio already blasting, and I stood there for a second longer than I should have, staring down the street. Something wasn't sitting right. That bag she packed, there was too much in it. If you're crashing on your sister's couch for one night, you don't pack like you're heading to the coast for a week. The thing is, I tried to let it go. I chalked it up to stress or maybe just needing space. Life gets heavy. People get weird. Happens. But then it happened again. Next Friday. Same line. Melanie invited me again. Said it really helped her relax last time. This time, she didn't pack the tote. She brought a small rolling suitcase. That night, I texted Melanie. Hey, hope you two are having a good time. Tell Laura to bring me back some popcorn if y'all watch that horror movie she's been talking about. No reply. Not that night. Not the next day. On Sunday afternoon, Melanie texted back. Hey, sorry, didn't see this. We just chilled. Nothing exciting. That didn't sit well. 2 days and not a single text. Melanie's the kind of woman who replies to an Amazon confirmation email with emojis. She's glued to her phone. I didn't bring it up to Laura that night. Didn't ask. Just watched her. She came home smelling like some flowery perfume I didn't recognize. Not her usual stuff. Her hair looked too perfect for someone who just chilled all weekend. That next week, I paid attention. Wednesday morning, she left her phone on the kitchen counter while she was upstairs. Screen lit up. Some work contact. Name I didn't know. It was locked, of course, and I wasn't about to snoop, yet. But something in my gut said, you already know what this is. By the third weekend, it wasn't a gut feeling. It was a damn neon sign. She said it so casual. Melanie's got wine and new pajamas for us this time, she joked, tossing her suitcase in the back of the car. I just nodded. Told her to drive safe. Watched her pull away again. Once she was gone, I sat on the porch for a while, drinking coffee out of the same chipped blue mug I've used for 7 years. I thought about the past few months, how distant she'd been, how she stopped sitting close on the couch, how her phone never left her side, not even when she used to go shower. The more I thought about it, the more the puzzle pieces started to fall into place. That night, I called Melanie. Straight up. Hey, Melanie. Just wondering, Laura's over there with you again, right? There was this pause. Just long enough. Yeah, of course. She's just in the shower. But the way she said it? It was forced. Like she wasn't expecting the call. Her voice was too bright. Too quick to answer. I said all right, thanked her, hung up, and sat there in silence. That was when I knew. Not suspected. Knew. It was like a switch flipped. All the things I hadn't wanted to see, I saw, am clear as day now. The sister was covering for her. And my wife? She was lying to my face every week and acting like I was too slow to catch on. But I wasn't born yesterday, and I wasn't going to wait for the truth to wander up to my front porch. I was going to go find it. That Friday, I told her I was heading out for a fishing trip with the boys. Said we were getting up early Saturday, driving a few hours out near the lake, staying in a cabin for the weekend. She nodded, barely listening, while she folded laundry and double-checked her own bag. Said she was doing a weekend with her sister again. Melanie's got wine, movies, and one of those face masks that peels like glue, she joked, tossing her travel bag on the bed like she was a college girl heading to a sleepover. I just smiled. Tell her I said thanks for putting up with you. She laughed, kissed my cheek, and said, be safe with those idiots on the boat. She left just after 6. The sun was still out, just starting to fall low behind the trees. I watched her from the front room window, same spot where I used to sit with my coffee in the mornings, watching her pull out for work like clockwork. This time, she didn't take her usual work tote. Just the little roller suitcase and a small overnight bag. No pillows, no extra groceries like she'd brought before. She was traveling light. Like she knew exactly where she was going and who was already waiting there. I waited 5 minutes after she pulled away. Just enough time. Then I walked out the back, through the alley, and circled 2 blocks to my truck. I'd parked it away from the house that afternoon. Didn't want her catching sight of it and wondering why it was still there. I got in, fired it up, and pulled out slow, keeping distance but never losing her. We rolled through town, past the usual Friday traffic, folks heading to dinner, families piling into minivans, teenagers in loud cars circling the strip mall parking lots. She didn't look around. Didn't check her mirrors. She was relaxed. Comfortable. That told me this wasn't new. She knew the route by heart. We passed through the edge of town, where the pavement gets rough and the lampposts thin out. Then she made a right, turned into a cracked lot behind a gas station. And there it was, same place I'd seen before when I ran her card info, the old roadside motel. One long row of teal doors. Low roof. Chain link fence sagging at the edge of the property. No cameras. No front desk. Just a number to call taped to the office window and a crusty vending machine that probably hadn't worked since the last Bush administration. She parked 3 spots from the end, killed her lights, and sat there. I pulled into the lot across the street, an abandoned diner with busted windows and a roof starting to cave in. Perfect view. I shut my engine off, dropped my hat low, and waited. 5 minutes later, another car rolled in. A gray Honda sedan. New model. Out stepped a guy maybe mid-30s, tall, with dark hair, wearing jeans and a company logo jacket. My stomach turned a little, not from surprise, but from the fact that even knowing, even suspecting, I still hoped I was wrong. He knocked on her window. She opened it, said something I couldn't hear, then got out with a smile. He took her bag. They walked together to one of the middle doors, room 12. She let him open it for her. He stood back like he'd done it a dozen times. Like this was routine. I raised my phone and clicked the first photo. Not shaky. Not rushed. I had all the time in the world. They stepped inside. Door closed. Lights off. I checked the time. 6:48 p.m. Didn't know how long they'd be in there. Didn't really care. I wasn't there to burst in or play hero. I was there to get proof. Hard proof. The kind that speaks when liars go quiet. I pulled out my old Nikon from the glove box, used to take pictures of job sites, angles, sighting, all that. Never thought I'd use it for something like this, but the zoom lens still worked smooth as butter. I focused in on room 12, took a few more stills. The door. Their cars. License plates. I wasn't gonna leave anything open to doubt. Across the lot, the lights from the gas station flickered on. Bets looped under the signs. A train rumbled somewhere in the distance. Town kept moving while I sat in silence, alone with the truth. At 8:12, the door opened. She came out first, fixing her hair. Jacket zipped. No signs of guilt, just calm, like it was business as usual. He followed. Said something to her that made her smirk. They didn't touch this time. Just walked to their cars, got in, and drove off in opposite directions. I waited another 10 minutes before I started my engine and left. Took the long way home. Didn't play music. Didn't make a call. Just drove with one hand on the wheel and the other resting on the camera bag on the seat beside me. When I got back to the house, it was empty. Quiet. Her scent still hung in the bathroom. Candles still burned on the counter. She'd left everything like she planned to come back and pretend. But I wasn't pretending anymore. This wasn't rage. This wasn't heartbreak. This was confirmation. Cold and clean, like a wrench sliding into place. I took the camera upstairs, transferred the photos to my laptop, backed them up on a flash drive, then backed that up to another drive I locked in the shed. I labeled the folder Auto Insurance and hid it behind other files, just in case. Then I sat down on the edge of the bed where she used to curl up beside me. I stared at the dresser, her perfumes all lined up like nothing had changed. And I knew this much, nothing was ever going back to how it was. I didn't say a word when she got home on Sunday. Laura strolled in like it was any other Sunday, dropped her keys in the dish, kicked her shoes off in the hallway, and asked if I wanted Chinese or burgers for dinner. Like she hadn't just spent the weekend at a motel with some guy from work. Like I was too stupid to notice. I chose Chinese. I even thanked her when she handed me the takeout box. I sat on the couch, picked through the rice, and made small talk about the fishing trip I never went on. She asked if we caught anything. I said a few bass and a snapping turtle I threw back. She laughed and said, "Yuck." I smiled. It wasn't fake. It was controlled. See, once you know what someone's capable of, the game changes. You don't argue. You don't beg. You just get quiet and start digging. And I dug. That night, after she went upstairs and turned on one of her yoga podcasts or whatever she listened to before bed, I pulled out my laptop, logged into our shared bank account. We'd been using the same one since the first year we got married. Direct deposit, bill pay, the usual. I never really kept track of the little charges. She handled groceries, gas, Target runs. But now I was looking at every single one. I set filters by date and sorted by merchant. That's when I found it. Charges listed under names that didn't match any grocery chain I'd ever heard of. One said GTR Services. Another just said Haven with a bunch of numbers after it. On paper, they looked small. $75 here. $92 there. One of them was listed for $124 on a Friday. Around the same time, I watched her walk into room 12. I pulled up the phone and typed in the merchant ID. Turns out GTR Services was the payment processor for that dusty old motel off Highway 9. She'd been using our grocery fund to pay for the room. I closed the laptop and just sat there. My hands were steady, but my jaw ached. I'd been grinding my teeth without realizing. She thought I'd never check. She thought she was smarter than me. So I checked more. Phone records. She was on her phone more now than she'd ever been. Constant swipes and screen taps like her fingers didn't know how to sit still anymore. I pulled up the cell bill and started looking at the call logs. Same number popped up every week. Usually around mid-morning, sometimes late at night. Not saved in her contacts. Just 10 digits. And it wasn't her sister's number. I knew that one by heart. I plugged it into an app one found online. Came back as a work line from her company. Belonged to someone named Connor. I'd never heard of him. Never met him. But I remembered the jacket. The logo. That's when I knew I had a name for the guy from the motel. Connor. The next day, I sent Melanie a message. Just something casual. "Hey, appreciate you hosting Laura this weekend. Hope y'all had a good time." She responded in 2 minutes. Of course. We binged movies and ate garbage. Totally needed it. I stared at the message. Typed, then erased. Typed again. "Did y'all end up watching that old 90s thriller she mentioned last week?" There was a pause this time. Then, "Yep, that's the one. Laura loved it." Funny thing was, I made that movie up. Didn't even exist. That's when the anger started creeping in, not the loud kind. Not the punch-a-wall kind. The type that settles deep and quiet, like coals waiting for air. She wasn't just lying. She was using her own sister to pull it off, or maybe Melanie was in on it the whole time. Later that week, I waited until Laura was in the shower, grabbed her phone off the charger, and started snapping pictures of everything I could. Call logs, text threads, calendar entries. Didn't try to unlock anything. I didn't need to. All I needed was the home screen. Notifications alone told a story. One in particular caught my eye. A message from Melanie. "Tell him we're going to get brunch next weekend if he asks. Don't forget the allergy story in case he pushes." That's when I knew. Her own sister wasn't just covering for her. She was coaching her, helping her fine-tune the lie. I sat back down on the bed, phone still in hand, and just stared at the wall. I could feel my pulse in my ears, but I didn't lose it. This wasn't the time to lose it. I uploaded everything I had onto a flash drive I kept in the garage toolbox. That old red metal Craftsman I got from my dad years back. Nobody touches that thing but me. I labeled the folder something boring, insurance papers. Put it under a folder named taxes. I figured if she ever snooped, she'd run the other way. The next few days, I kept acting normal. We ate dinner together, watched a movie, laughed once or twice. But all the while, I was still pulling the thread. And the more I pulled, the more came loose. Everything she said started to sound rehearsed, polished, like she was reciting lines from a play. She even changed up her routes to work. Different coffee shops, different gas stations. I noticed it all. She thought she was 2 steps ahead, but I wasn't chasing her anymore. I was tracking her. The next morning, I got up early like I always do. Made coffee in the quiet kitchen, sat at the table while the sun came up over the fence line, and flipped through the photos on my laptop one more time. They weren't grainy. They weren't rushed. I had shots of her standing in front of the motel room, shots of the guy beside her, their cars, license plates, clear as daylight. It was all there. No denying it. No twisting it into some other story. I sipped my coffee, set the mug down, and made the call. Darren, I said when he picked up. I need to talk to you. In person. Darren's been my attorney for years. Helped me set up my small business when I started taking private jobs. Drew up contracts for my bigger clients. He's one of those rare ones, keeps his tie loose, calls things how he sees them, and never charges you just for breathing near him. He's the kind of guy you want on your side when things go sideways. We met at his office that afternoon. Place smelled like old books and fresh paper. A calendar hung crooked on the wall behind his desk. His assistant offered me coffee. I passed. Darren leaned back in his chair when I sat down, gave me that look like he already knew something was off. What's going on? He asked. I didn't say a word. Just pulled the flash drive from my jacket pocket, set it on the table between us. What's this? Proof, I said. She's been cheating. He didn't flinch. Just leaned forward and plugged the drive into his laptop. Clicked through the folder I'd labeled auto insurance. It opened into a set of neatly labeled subfolders. Dates, times, images, video. I watched his face as he clicked through. He didn't say a word, just nodded once when he reached the last file. All right, he said. So what do you want to do? Leave, I said. Quietly. Smart. Clean. He sat back again, folded his hands over his chest. Then here's what you're gonna do. First, separate all accounts. Take half the money and move it into your name. No arguments, no apologies. That's your right. Do it before she sees this coming. You leave it too long, and she'll empty the account before you can blink. I nodded. Second, remove her name from anything you legally can. If the truck's in both your names, transfer it. If she's on the business paperwork, fix that. Every signature matters. Clean break. Understand? I understand. And third, he paused, then leaned in. Don't confront her. Not yet. You play it cool. You act normal. You don't even breathe different. Because if she senses something's up, she's gonna run interference, maybe even try to get ahead of you in court. You make her think everything's fine while you pull the rug out from under her. It wasn't revenge talk. It wasn't emotional. It was tactical, clean, logical. Exactly what I needed. We got to work. Darren gave me a list of everything I needed to change. Passwords, banks, ownerships. He helped me draft up a new will. Got me in touch with a CPA to get a new financial affidavit done. And then, together, we started working on the divorce paperwork. It took 5 days to get everything in motion. I moved the money into a new bank account, opened in just my name, transferred my truck title, changed the lockbox access, made sure the mortgage couldn't be touched. I even set up a new mailing address, a P.O. box on the other side of town, so nothing important would come through the house. The only thing I left untouched was the joint credit card. Let her keep using it for now. Every charge told me where she was, what she was buying, who she was seeing. By Thursday evening, everything that mattered was in my hands. I came home that night, grilled burgers, and sat on the back porch with her like nothing had changed. She drank wine and told me about some work meeting that ran long. I nodded, tossed her another blanket when it got chilly, and told her I missed this, us, just being normal. She smiled. She had no idea. She kept talking about how maybe we could do a cabin trip in a few weeks. Just the two of us. She said she wanted to get back to how things used to be. I nodded along, handed her another drink, and said, "That sounds nice." Because the trap was already set. Everything legal was in motion. The paperwork was being reviewed. My accounts were locked down. She was still living in the old version of our marriage, comfortable, blind, thinking I was none the wiser. But I wasn't behind. I was ahead. I wasn't yelling. I wasn't crying. I wasn't blowing things up just to make a scene. I was planning, like a man does when he knows exactly what's coming. And by the time she figured it out, it'd already be too late. I waited until Sunday. Didn't want to do it on a weekday. Too many people out. Too much noise. I wanted it quiet, private. And Sunday's the kind of day folks don't expect trouble. That's when it hits hardest. Found his address easy enough. Didn't take much digging. He wasn't some criminal mastermind. He was just a guy who thought nobody would notice. Took me less than an hour to pull his registration off a license plate photo and cross-check it with a property lookup site. Second floor apartment, east side of town, close to the business park where their company was headquartered. I didn't call. Didn't message. Just drove over and parked across the street. His name was Connor. Fit the type. Wore cologne that came in square bottles and styled his hair like a magazine ad. I figured he'd be home. His car was parked out front. Same gray Honda sedan I'd watched him step out of at the motel. Still had the little dent above the driver's side headlight. I walked up to his building. Door wasn't locked. 2 short flights up, and I was standing in front of Unit 204. The hallway smelled like stale pizza and old carpet. I knocked once. Hard. Took a second. Then I heard movement inside. Door cracked open. And there he was. When he saw me, his face dropped like a stone in water. Eyes wide, mouth just slightly open. He didn't say anything at first. Just stared like he was trying to figure out if he'd met me before. He had. Just not like this. "Connor?" I asked, already stepping forward. He opened the door more, stepped back. "Yeah." I walked in without asking. Calm. Steady. Just enough pressure to show I wasn't there to chat about the weather. He shut the door behind me and stood still, hands loose at his sides like he didn't know whether to fight or bolt. "What's going on?" he asked. I pulled the flash drive from my coat pocket. Same one I'd handed to my lawyer. Set it on his coffee table. His place was neat, too neat. Like he didn't really live there. Probably kept it nice in case anyone from work ever dropped by. "You recognize this?" I asked. He shook his head slowly. "You should," I said. "It's you and my wife at the motel. Room 12. Friday night." He blinked, then tried to say something. I think. I cut him off. "Don't bother lying. I've got the photos. I've got timestamps. I followed you there. I followed her home. I've got every piece I need." He sat down on the edge of the couch like his knees gave out. He didn't speak, just ran a hand over his mouth. "I'm sending this to HR tomorrow morning," I said, nodding to the flash drive. "They'll open it with coffee and see the two of you conducting business off the clock. Think they'll enjoy that?" "No, wait," he stammered. "Please. Don't do that. Look, I didn't know she was married at first." "Don't lie," I said again. "You knew. She never took her ring off. You just didn't care." He looked at the floor, then back up at me. His hands were shaking now. I let the silence sit there. Heavy. Then he said it. "It wasn't just me. I didn't move." He swallowed hard. "Your wife. Laura. She was with someone else. At work. Before me. Our boss." Everything inside me went still. That one hit different. I stared at him for a long second. Not because I didn't believe it, but because I did. "Say that again," I said, voice flat. He nodded slowly, still not meeting mine. "Our department head. Nate Mathers. He's the one who brought her on to the Harrison project." People talked. I didn't think much of it, but then she told me herself. One night after everything started. Said he had a thing for her. Said it only happened once. Once. Right. I looked around his apartment like I was checking the foundation. He kept going, like he couldn't stop. "I don't want any trouble. I didn't mean for it to get this far. I didn't mean to hurt anybody. I just..." He trailed off. I reached into my jacket again. This time, I pulled out a small voice recorder. Clicked it off. He froze. "You recorded me?" "I did." "Man, come on, why would you?" I leaned down, calm as ever, face level with his. "Because I wanted to hear it from you. And I wanted proof that you're not just a fool, you're a coward too." He looked away. I stood straight, walked to the door, opened it like I owned the place. Then I turned back to him. "You've got 7 days," I said. "Pack your things. Leave this state. I see your face again after that." I stopped being polite. He didn't respond. Just sat there. Good. I stepped out and pulled the door shut behind me. The latch clicked like a punctuation mark. Walking down those stairs, I didn't feel satisfied. I didn't feel rage. What I felt was control. The kind you get when the pieces finally start fitting into place, and the truth lays down clean and sharp across the board. The kind of control that comes right before the storm breaks. The building was one of those glass and steel towers downtown. You know the kind, clean lines, polished floors, automatic doors that whisper when they open. I'd driven past it 100 times, never gave it a second thought. Funny how a place can mean nothing until it suddenly means everything. I walked through the front lobby just after 10 a.m. on a Tuesday, carried a folder in one hand. Wore my boots, jeans, and my cleanest work shirt. No suit. No tie. I wasn't there to impress. I was there for a conversation. His name was Nate Mathers. Department head. Mid-40s. Liked to call himself results-driven from what I'd read on the company website. A real polished type. Hair a little too perfect. Smile like a politician. Probably used words like synergy without blinking. I'd called the front desk that morning, told them I was dropping off materials for him, personal delivery from a vendor. They buzzed me right up. No one stopped me. His office was up on the 12th floor. Corner unit, big windows, skyline view. A little too much light for a guy who worked in shadows. He was sitting behind his desk when I walked in. Didn't even look up at first, just glanced at his monitor and said, "Give me a second." I stepped forward and set the folder down in front of him. That made him look. He tilted his head. "Can I help you?" I didn't answer. Just opened the folder, spread out 3 photos. All in color. All printed clean. One of Laura and Connor at the motel door. One of Laura standing beside her car, hand brushing his arm. And one from a few months back. Laura at an office event, laughing at something off camera. He was standing behind her, hand on her shoulder. A little too familiar. I added one more. A screenshot of a text. His name. Her name. The message. He stared at them. Didn't say a word. Just smirked. "I don't know what you think you've got here," he said finally, leaning back. "But there's nothing going on. Not between her and me." I nodded once, calm as ever. "Don't lie," I said. Not to a man holding evidence. That smirk faded just a hair. He leaned forward again. "Look, I don't know who you are. I'm her husband." That landed. I could see it in his eyes. Still, he tried to recover. "Okay. I think you're overreacting. Whatever happened between Laura and Connor is their business. None of this concerns me. Then why is your name in their messages?" No answer. I gathered the photos back into the folder, one at a time. Slow. Clean. "You don't have to say anything," I said. "You don't even have to admit it. I'm not here for your confession. I already got what I needed." "What's that supposed to mean?" I stood up, tucked the folder under my arm. "It means," I said, "you should probably check your inbox." He stared at me like he wasn't sure if I was bluffing. I walked out without waiting for a response. Didn't slam the door. Didn't raise my voice. Just turned and walked back down that hallway, past cubicles and confused looks, like I had every right to be there, because I did. Took the elevator down. Pushed the lobby button. Pulled out my phone. I had the number saved. Human Resources. Got it off the company website 2 days ago. Made sure I called the direct line, not the switchboard. A woman answered. Polite, firm voice. Probably heard 1,000 complaints in her career. HR department. "This is Lisa." "Hi, Lisa. My name is Daniel Cole. I need to report a misconduct issue involving your department head, Nate Mathers." I heard the typing start instantly. "What kind of issue, sir?" "I have evidence that he's been involved in inappropriate relationships with employees under his supervision. One of them is my wife." Silence. Then, more typing. "Do you have any documentation?" "I do." "Can you forward it?" "I already did," I said. "Check your inbox." Subject line. Code of conduct violation. Urgent. Came through from Daniel Cole _mail. She paused again. I waited. Then, "I see it here. For attachments." "There's more if you need it," I said. "Photos. Text logs. Timelines." She cleared her throat. "We'll review this immediately and begin the appropriate steps. Are you willing to provide a formal statement?" "I'm ready when you are." She thanked me. I said nothing else. Hung up. By the time I stepped out of the elevator into the lobby, I could feel the shift happening behind me. Emails opening. Meetings being called. Damage control kicking in. But there was no fixing what I just started. I didn't go home right away. Took the long way around the block. Got a coffee at a small place I used to stop at years ago. Sat outside. Watched traffic. Felt the wind on my face. I didn't feel proud. Didn't feel angry. Just steady. Everything was in motion now. No turning back. I hadn't yelled. Hadn't made threats. Hadn't raised a hand to anyone. All I'd done was walk in with the truth and let it do what it always does when it's finally let loose. Burn. I didn't hear anything the next day. Didn't expect to. But by Wednesday morning, the air started to change. Laura got a call just after breakfast. Her phone lit up while she was brushing her hair in the hallway mirror. I was drinking coffee at the kitchen table, pretending to read the sports section. I watched her glance at the screen, hesitate, then answer with that fake upbeat voice she always used when she was lying. Hey, Karen, yeah, of course. Right now. She walked into the other room and closed the door behind her. I didn't follow. I didn't need to. I just listened to the muffled words. I understand. Yes, I'll be there. Thank you. Followed by silence. When she came back out, her face was pale. Something wrong? I asked, cool as ever. She forced a smile. Just a quick check-in at the office. No big deal. She left in a hurry, makeup only half done. No perfume this time. I waited. By noon, I got the first text from a buddy who used to do IT work for the firm. He didn't say much. Just sent. Holy hell. Did you light that building on fire? I didn't reply. Instead, I pulled into the parking lot of the hardware store I'd been planning to hit for weeks. Bought nails. Deck stain. A new bit for my driver. Life goes on after all. By the time I got home, Laura was already back. She was sitting on the edge of the couch, hands in her lap, not even pretending to be okay. Her purse was still on the floor beside her, wide open like she hadn't had the strength to pick it back up. They let me go, she said without looking at me. I nodded, hung my jacket on the hook by the door. That right. They said there was a complaint. Something about conduct. HR said they had files. Evidence. Her voice shook near the end. I opened the fridge, grabbed a bottle of water, took my time unscrewing the cap. They let Connor go too? She blinked. You know about Connor? I didn't answer. She swallowed hard, looked down at her hands. Yeah, they called him in first. Said they had images. Footage. He was gone before I even walked through the door. I took a sip and leaned against the counter. And Nate? She flinched like I'd slapped her. I asked again calmly. What about Nate? She shook her head. He wasn't in. HR said he's on administrative leave pending internal review. Makes sense, I said. Big office like that. They like to do things proper. She looked at me then, and for the first time in years, I saw her panic. Not the kind she faked when she forgot something or got caught telling a harmless lie. This was real. Deep. She was drowning and just realizing no one was coming to save her. She opened her mouth to speak, but I cut her off with a look. Sit at the table. She hesitated. Now, I said, voice quiet. She stood, moved to the kitchen table, and sat in the same chair where we used to share morning coffee. Her hands shook slightly as she pulled them into her lap. I went to the cabinet, pulled down a plain manila envelope. It had been sitting there for 3 days, tucked behind a stack of tax papers. I walked over, placed it in front of her, and sat down opposite. She looked at it like it might bite her. Open it, I said. She slid the flap open, pulled out the contents, neatly stacked papers, clipped and sorted. On top, a black and white photo of her standing outside room 12. Below that, another. Her and Connor. Then screenshots of messages. Printouts of call logs. A list of meeting dates pulled from her calendar. The divorce papers sat at the very bottom. She didn't flip past the third image. Her eyes glazed. Shoulders slumped. She started, but I raised a hand. Don't, I said. You've had your chances. Now you have 2 options. She stared at me. You sign these papers right now, I continued, or things get worse. I'll walk this whole stack to your parents. I'll send copies to every mutual friend. I'll burn what's left of your reputation to the ground. Her lip trembled. I didn't mean for it to. No, I cut in. You meant it. You just didn't mean to get caught. I pushed a pen across the table. It tapped once against the wood before settling in front of her. She sat there for a moment, hands in her lap, breathing slow and shallow. Then, without a word, she picked up the pen and started signing. Each page turned like a chapter closing. She signed everything. When she was done, she set the pen down and whispered, "What happens now?" I gathered the papers, clipped them together, and stood up. "What happens now?" I repeated. "You get your things in order. You start over." Same as I did. I walked to the kitchen, slid the documents into a clean envelope, and tucked it under my arm. "Where are you going?" she asked. "Out," I said. "To breathe." She didn't stop me. Didn't cry. Didn't even ask for another chance. Because deep down, she knew the truth. Everything she thought was hidden had been pulled into the light. And now her whole house of cards was coming down, piece by piece. 3 months later, the judge signed the final papers. It was official. Done. I stood in that courtroom wearing the same boots I wore the day I married her. Faded leather. Scuffed at the toes. Real life leaves marks. I didn't feel joy. I didn't feel sadness either. Just stillness. Like standing on a mountaintop after a long climb. She didn't look at me. Sat 2 chairs down with her lawyer, trying to disappear into her blazer. That woman had looked me in the eye for years. Now she wouldn't even glance up. She didn't fight the terms. Didn't ask for the house, or the business, or even the car. Because there was nothing left to take. I'd already cleaned up the finances before the storm hit, just like my lawyer told me. She walked away with a suitcase and a car payment. That was the cost of betrayal. She didn't argue it. After the hearing, I didn't say a word to her. I walked out the front doors of the courthouse into sunlight and cool spring wind. The air felt clean again. A week later, her parents stopped by the house. Her dad stood on the porch with a paper bag of her things and an envelope addressed to me. "She lied to all of us," he said. "And Melanie helped her." I didn't say much. Just nodded and took the envelope. He looked tired. Not angry. Just disappointed. That kind of deep-down disappointment that doesn't go away easy. I think part of him came to apologize for raising a daughter who could do what she did. Maybe just wanted me to know I wasn't the one who failed. Melanie didn't call. Neither did Laura. I heard through a neighbor that the sisters had moved in together, renting some cramped apartment on the other side of town. No more sister weekends, no more spa days. Just silence between them and the people they used to know. The fallout didn't stop there. Nate, the boss, didn't keep his job. HR couldn't cover it up, not with the documentation I gave them. His wife found out too. I didn't send her anything. Didn't have to. Word gets around fast in a company full of whispers and inbox leaks. I heard she packed up the house and filed before the month was over. Nate didn't get fired. He got relocated. Companies speak for cleaning up a mess without saying it was a mess. They shipped him off to some satellite office 3 states over. As for Connor, the little boyfriend, he vanished. Didn't even bother to show up for the last meeting they asked him to attend. I heard he changed his number. Scrubbed his socials. Quit town entirely. Nobody's seen him since. Some say he tried applying at a place across the river, but his reference calls didn't go too well. Probably figured out what happens when your name gets tied to a scandal. Good. Me? I didn't celebrate. I built a new life, quiet and steady, like it should have been all along. I fixed the front porch steps. Replaced the railing she always said was too plain. Funny thing is, I like it that way. Plain means strong. Reliable. The kind of thing that doesn't wobble when life pushes on it. Started working out again, too. Nothing fancy. Just push-ups and laps around the block. Not for looks, just to feel like myself again. I took long drives out past the edge of town. Found an old diner near the lake, the kind where the waitress calls you Han and refills your coffee without asking. Started going every Sunday. My new tradition. No loud music. No drama. No pretending. Just peace. People ask if I'd ever get married again. Maybe. Maybe not. I'm not bitter. I just learned the hard way that trust isn't something you hand out easy. It's something earned. Brick by brick. And once it breaks, it doesn't go back to what it was. But here's what matters most. They thought I'd break. Thought I'd lose it. Run wild. Fall apart. But they forgot. I don't bend. Share your thoughts in the comments. Was the husband right to stay silent and strategic? Or should he have made it public sooner? If you liked the story, subscribe to the channel and give us a like.